Welcome to Prana Fictitious Stories. Before we begin today's story, we would like to make a small request. Please subscribe to our new channel and support us. Your support will inspire us to bring even more original and unique stories. So, without further delay, let's start today's story. Karan was soft, as if he was trying to lessen the tension that had increased between them. But Arv felt that this wasn't just dinner. Karan didn't just bring dinner here. He came to test his patience. Yes, Arv felt that Karan's eyes were on him. He felt uncomfortable, avoiding his eyes. I know you're good at a lot of things, but you're good. Karan smiled. His eyes were on Arv, as if he was watching every little thing he did. Arv also felt that he was trying to understand something. Don't be so tense, Arv, Karan said softly. His voice melted into the air. I'm not going anywhere. Arv's breathing stopped for a moment. His heart started beating fast again. 2 days later, Arv and Ragav had to leave the country. 2 days later, as soon as Arv got off the plane, he fixed his blazer and took a glimpse of that strange city with his own eyes. Arv was lost in thought. This business trip was going to be a distraction, a way to clear his mind and focus on something solid. But being with Ragav, distractions seemed like a difficult task. As soon as we entered the hotel, the cool breeze and the luxury felt clear. With the big, shiny marble floors, the hotel was giving an impression of sophistication. Arv tried to focus on his work, but Raghav's presence constant was a distraction for Arv. There was a little tension between them. After settling in their rooms, Arv thought he might get some peace now, but when he was unpacking, a knock broke his thoughts. As soon as he opened the door, Rag was standing there. His expression was casual, but quite intense. Ragav asked. His voice was smooth and inviting. Arv thought for a moment and then nodded. Yes, just a minute. The restaurant inside the hotel was dimly lit. Soft music was playing in the background. Both sat in front of each other. Candlelight was giving a warm glow to their faces. Arv was focused on the menu, but Raghav's eyes were fixed on it, unwavering and intense, as if Ragav had no other option but Arv at that time. Throughout the meal, Raghav's attention did not move from Arv even for a moment. There was a softness in his eyes, a warmth that Arv found unsettling and tense at the same time. Arv was also starting to feel that Raghav's eyes were more focused on him now, but he was helpless in doing anything. The conversation was going on normally. We were talking about work, but there was a deep feeling between them that was unsaid. After the meal, Ragav leaned back and said, "Let's go for a walk." Arv also wanted to get out of this uneasy feeling. He said yes for fresh air. He needed to clear his muddled thoughts. Both left in the cold night, and the city's light was dimming around them. The roads were empty. Only the sound of the leaves and the sound of the traffic coming from afar could be heard. Ragav Arv was walking with Arv, both of their steps in a rhythm. There was a comfortable silence, but the tension was increasing. Closeness now seemed unbearable. They stopped near a park, where the paths were being illuminated by soft lights. Ragav pointed to a bench to seat Arv. Arv sat there. They both remained silent for a while. Then Ragav broke the silence and said, Arv had something to say. Raghav's voice was soft, full of emotion. I know that between the two of us, things are getting complicated. But I couldn't pretend that I didn't feel anything for you. Arv's heartbeat increased rapidly. He looked at Ragav. The intensity in his eyes made it difficult for Arv to breathe. No matter where I am, I keep thinking about you, Arv. You are not just a business partner or just a friend for me, and I think you are also starting to feel this. And even if you don't, it's okay. But please don't ignore. Ragav continued. He slowly extended his hand towards Arv. The warmth of Raghav's touch sent a shiver through his spine. He didn't know how to respond, how to turn the storm of emotions into words that were swirling inside him. Ragav took a step closer and his hand was still on Arv's hand. I'm not asking for answers right now. I just wanted to tell you what I feel, and I will wait, Arv, for as long as it takes. Arv looked into Raghav's eyes. The intensity and vulnerability that he felt, his mind was in a whirlwind. But he knew from the inside that Raghav's words had stirred up something inside him that he couldn't ignore. Both sat there in the silence of the night. Arv was feeling a strange tension. The tension was still there, but now it was different. Softer, more hopeful. And after a long time, Arv let himself lean into that moment. He let the warmth of Raghav's presence feel all around him. Welcome to Prana Fictitious Story. We would like to make a small request to you. Please subscribe to our new channel and support us. Your support will encourage us to bring more original and unique stories. The next morning, Arav wakes up with a strange anxiety and excitement. Last night's conversation was going on in his mind. Raghav's confession was in his mind again and again. Today was going to be a different day for him. While getting ready for today's meeting, Arav tried to neglect his emotions. This business trip was very important and he had to focus on his work. But when he left his room and went towards the conference hall, Ragav had already reached there. He was standing near the entrance. As soon as he looked at Arav, he saw a slight smile on his face. Arav's heart started beating fast, but he kept a normal face while controlling himself. Ragav said, "Good morning." His voice was light and loving. "Good morning." Arav answered a little reservedly. Both of them were busy in meetings in the morning, discussing strategies and finalizing deals. Arav's entire attention was focused on work. But sometimes, as soon as he looked at Rahav, Arav's heart started beating fast, seeing the same softness in his eyes. It was time for a break. Both of them came out for fresh air. The sun was shining and the hustle and bustle of the city was around them. Arav was standing and drinking coffee with the help of the railing, trying to control his thoughts. Ragav came to him, not far from him, but not at all. Ragav gently asked, "You seem a little quiet today." Arav replied, "There's a lot going on in my mind," but without looking at him. Ragav shook his head, as if he understood everything without any further explanation. "If you ever feel like talking, I am right here." Arav appreciated his offer. But at that time, he was completely confused in his complex web of feelings. That's why he just wanted to focus on work, without a break. In the evening, after the meeting was successful, Ragav asked Arav to explore the city. Arav agreed, thinking that this would be a good way to unwind. They roamed the streets of both cities, enjoying the sights and sounds of each place. One day, they reached a small, quaint cafe, which was tucked away in a quiet corner. The atmosphere there was cozy, there was soft lighting, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee was in the air. They were sitting in a corner booth where the intimacy was increasing the tension between them. Sipping coffee, Ragav looked up with a thoughtful expression. "I always admire your dedication," he said in silence. Arav looked up in surprise, hearing compliments. "Thanks, but I prefer to get lost in work." Ragav nodded, but sometimes it's good to take a step back and just stay like this. Arav felt a vulnerability in Raghav's words. He kept talking, and the conversation naturally flowed. Arav felt that he was relaxing. The tension was slowly diminishing when he was sharing both the stories and the laughter. In such moments, he suddenly remembered Karan, how Karan and he used to talk and spend time together. That time was the best time for him. As the evening passed and Arav came out of Karan's thoughts, he felt that Raghav's gaze was getting more intense on him. Arav felt his stare. Unspoken emotions were hanging between them. The air seemed charged, full of possibilities. Ragav came up from the table, touching Arav's hand. "Arav," he started. His voice was light and full of emotions. "What I said last night was absolutely true. You mean a lot to me, and I will always be with you." Arav started feeling uneasy, and he didn't know how to respond. Raghav's feelings were overwhelming him. But one thing was clear. Raghav's words had touched his heart. For the first time, Arav acknowledged the growing connection between him and Ragav. It was terrifying, but also exhilarating. And when they sat in the quiet of the cafe, Arav also felt something. A little, but it felt like he wanted to give a chance to this unknowing relationship. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of meetings and late-night discussions, but the lingering tension between Arav and Ragav was still the same. This business trip, which was quite successful, had now become a complex web, filled with unsaid emotions and stolen glances. One evening, after a very tiring day, Ragav asked them to relax in a nearby rooftop lounge. The city's light was spread out in front of them, just like stars shining in the sky. Arav hesitates for a moment, but then agrees. He was craving for a quiet escape from this hectic schedule. After settling in a secluded corner of the rooftop lounge, the ambience wrapped him up. Soft music was playing in the background. Ragav ordered drinks and quietly sat down, looking at the lights of both cities. "I'm glad we did this trip together," Ragav finally said. His voice was gentle.